to your questions. Yesterday, I noted that there was another joint element that we had and that we discussed with the European Union, for instance, with respect to school curricula. So Israel is the occupying power. And brought up the question of impact. According to the comments that were made in our school curricula, the Palestinians were represented as being oppressed. So we discussed with the European Union and agreed on the following, that it is necessary for us to carry out a comparative study of school curricula in Palestinian and Israeli school curricula, but the Israelis refused to even carry out a comparative study involving their curricula. And so we agreed for our program, our curricula, to be studied, even if it wasn't a comparative study. And so, along with the European Union, we concluded that indeed such a study could be carried out about school curricula. We submitted to the European Union the curricula in PDF format, and we also helped them to carry out this study of our programs based on the idea that we want our programs and curricula to be the best possible, the highest quality, and we want them to be continually improving so that they will be suitable for all of our people. At the same time, there were some allegations which were leveled, and the question was posed about why some said that curricula essentially promote discrimination. Our school programs and curricula, in fact, they try to promote the opposite. That is, that they promote everyone being able to practice their religion, and this covers everyone. And so in the program, it didn't cover just the soldiers who would go into schools and homes. That was talked about in the textbooks, of course, but that's not the only thing. And those who know about these curricula, what that means is that you also need to take into account the needs of pupils and students, their characteristics and specificities. The environment where the students live needs to be taken into account. The Palestinian environment, regrettably, is one which is weighed down under the burden of occupation. And when you look at the number of schools which were demolished in the underprivileged areas and the Bedouin areas, many of these schools were demolished and damaged. In 2018, 6 students were killed. Some pupils and students have to meet in tents. I think there was one school that was built out of rubber, in fact. And this is a school which is in a region where it's very, very hot. And so the Palestinian people have the right to present their living conditions through these school curricula. It's their right, according to international law, the right to self-determination, according to Article 55, as well as Resolution 1514 of 1960, as well as other resolutions of the General Assembly. Occupied and colonized peoples have the right to use all means available to them to combat colonization, occupying powers, colonization, and so on. These are documents that were the basis of our work. And according to reports from UNRWA, they were active in West Bank and Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria. So UNRWA uses the school curriculum of the host country. This covers refugees in West Bank and Gaza, and that means that they're having the Palestinian school curriculum. And this means and 96% of the Palestinian curriculum is in line with UN and international standards. Fourth, questions of human rights and international humanitarian law were covered, as I said previously. Various programs talk about the occupying power and Jewish Zionism, and that is what was announced in the Balfour Declaration. We didn't come up with that. We didn't invent it. It was the same one that was used in the Balfour documents. It's not a question of it's a question of discrimination against Palestinians, and we're trying to explain to Palestinian students that that document is a discriminatory one because the minority was the minorities were essentially given all the right, not the majority. Israel was not able to establish its borders up until then. Also, the question of borders is part of the final settlement. It's not a question of policy, but of history. Programs and curricula also talk about the presence of Jews. In UN Watch, they said this was not the case. And we talk about Judaism and others. Judaism is a religion that one believes in. We have the same God. So they talked about Jews in Palestine who were present before 1947. These were Palestinian Arabs, and they had the same rights as us. Also, you said that we didn't talk about the map of Israel. How would you like us to present the map of Israel in the 20s and 30s? Did Israel exist then for us to have a map of their borders? Maybe we talked about the Balfour document. Israel existed. And so how could we have a map for a country that didn't exist at the time? The programs also talk about the concept of resistance defined as under international humanitarian law, armed struggle without warning, that fighting only takes place among combatants, that women and children, older persons don't get killed, trees don't get uprooted. And this is when we look at the Palestinian national policy line. The occupying power in Jerusalem stopped these Palestinian programs which were being taught in schools in Jerusalem. For instance, we have a hymn which was called Fedai, but that didn't mean that we wanted to kill anyone. It just says that I, as a Palestinian, I'm ready to sacrifice myself for Palestine. That was the meaning of the word Fedai, which was part of our hymn. And here I'm responding to what was said in the comments from UN Watch. Also, let me say the following.